topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask the Expert Show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV, where we bring you educational information from experts on such topics as legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Now sit back and listen to our experts in community association law, estate planning law, tax relief, Medicare, public insurance adjusters, neuropathy treatment, business brokers, and personal injury law, along with many other topics. Now here's your host for the last 17 years, Steve O.
Sound like an old person, 17 years. I actually started the show when I was 6. So, what's 17 years? Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to another Ask the Expert show. This guest, our first expert, I love this guy. I mean, not love, but I love this guy. And I have so much respect for him and his company. It's called Stephen Fromm. It is, what they do is Medicare Advantage. And I am leaving my agent to go with him. Now, in 17 years, I've never really endorsed anybody. This is my first endorsement, and I couldn't have picked a better person to do it for. Let me welcome and hello, TikTok. If you want to know anything about Medicare, and there's so many new things coming out, you don't want to miss today's show. And if you have a question, please text. I'll try to get it in, but we've got a lot of people on YouTube also asking questions. Good afternoon, Mr. Fromm.
Good afternoon, Steve-O. How are you doing? And I just want to preface that we did not contact each other to wear the same hat and shirt today.
Yeah.
Or we did not. That was ad hoc. That was completely... Yeah. I was going between my hats, and I'm like, I'm going to wear this one today.
No, let me tell you something. Stephen called me up this morning and said, what hat are you wearing today?
There we go.
And that did not happen. Stephen, I got to, it's getting to where it takes me half the show just to give you accolades. And I got to tell people, this man, you heard about going the extra mile. This man has put together probably about 20 promotional items. I mean, anywhere. This is like one of my favorite. Besides my hat, besides my shirt, my fan. But here's what I want to tell you. There's other companies who do promotional items. I have never seen a company who everything they do is first class. I mean, normally people cut back because they're promotional items. Not Stephen and his wife. On everything, look at my shirt. It's first quality. It's twilled on there. It's not like a decal. I've never seen, and I'm a hat person. I have never seen a hat so well done. And I'm just telling you this because if this man's going to handle your Medicare, and if you haven't gotten into it yet, there is so much that you need to know. You want someone who goes the extra mile. And Stephen, I got to tell you, bro, I can't stop bragging about you.
Well, we appreciate that, Steve. Thank you very much. We do strive for excellence. That's what I was taught by my father, strive for excellence every day. So as you know, we're always trying to help families make a positive difference in their lives. And Medicare is confusing, complex. Pick an adjective, and it describes Medicare. So we do our best to try to make it simple, educational, informative, and that is what I stress with all of the families that I speak to daily. And I know, is this our California show today? We're talking, our California is on our show today. So
we're doing the entire West Coast and all the way down to Florida.
Well, I wanted to, every time I show, I try to talk about a certain topic. Since this is our first California show, throughout our shows, we're always talking about original Medicare, Medicare Advantage, exposure issues with respect to original Medicare, be it cancer, heart attack, stroke, skilled nursing, recovery care, home care, whether it's a non-Medicare approved expense or whether it's a non-medical expense. And in California, it's one of the most heavily regulated markets. And
Yes.
I'm not going to go into all of the details, but I can make it pretty simple in the sense that all of the cancer, heart attack, stroke policies we talked about, recovery care, home care, hospital insurance, with someone turning 65 in California, those policies have to be put in place before they turn 65. Once they turn 65, we're no longer able to, the carriers, not me, carriers are no longer offer those programs to residents in California above the age of 65. So that's why it's so important when someone is aging into Medicare that we begin to have these conversations at least 6 months prior to their birthday, so that we can put their game plan together for them, so they understand what the cost of, have they worked the 40 quarters for Part A to be free? What's the Part B going to be? Is it going to be the 20290, or is there going to be a IRMA? What's that going to cost? What is possibly my Medicare supplemental Medigap going to cost? And then let's talk about those exposure issues, and let's get those products in line for you now before you turn 65, because once you turn 65, things are a lot different, and that's different in every state.
Stephen, I haven't really discussed this with you yet, but California it's an animal in its own. And I think California and the surrounding areas need their own show. So starting next month, Stephen does 2 shows with us. He does basically an East Coast show, and he does a West Coast show, or actually Florida. I think it's so important that we add this as a third show, the California area, Stephen, because it is different than most states, right?
Way different. Yes, right. Heavily regulated. Let's just go with the words heavily regulated in California. And that is why it's so important to have these conversations. If you're aging into Medicare, contact us 6 months before your birthday. Don't wait until your initial election period, 3 months before your birthday. Let's start having this 6-month conversation. Let's have those plans in place. Let's, take pen to paper, make notes. Let's put a budget together so we understand everything. It's so important that this be done for everybody. Again, very regulated, heavily regulated. And again, as you and I talk about, every state is different, but California is heavily regulated.
Yes. So if you don't mind, I think we should add a third show just for California.
That would be great. There's so many things.
Yeah, we will be doing that, because actually when I started promoting that we have a California agent now, I got so many emails wanting to know when the show was going to be. And I think it's really important, Stephen. So we're getting a lot of questions. There's some, sometimes we forget, because you do this every day, that there are so many people who don't understand about Medicare. So we're getting a lot of questions about, when do you start enrolling now for 2026, or actually 2027, I think is what they probably mean.
Well, again, your initial election period, when you're turning 65, to 3 months before your birthday, the month of your birthday, and 3 months after. I'm currently working with, families, Michigan, I'll say, and different states that are turning 65 in February or January. And we're already having this conversation, so they understand what they're going to pay. You know, again, is Part A going to be free if you work the 40 quarters or 10 years? What's your Part B going to be? You know, because your Part B is going to be based on your income from 24. So right there, I have to educate families. What do you mean by income from 2 years ago? Yeah, your modified adjusted gross income 2 years ago, as well as think about today. How you position yourself today is going to affect possibly your IRMA in 28. People like, wow, I never thought about that. That's why aligning all these things. I'm a big believer in 6 months before. 6 months before is when we really start having conversations, because you do not have to wait until you turn 65 to put these other plans in place: cancer, heart attack, stroke, recovery care, home care, or hospital insurance, or even dental insurance. You don't have to wait until you turn 65. Matter of fact, you're 64. Guess the rate is going to be cheaper for you now than when you turn 65. So those are all the educational parts that we constantly talk about with these families. These are important things to know. Like I said, you know, what is my cost going to be? I want to know what my cost is going to be when I turn 65, be it original Medicare or a Medicare Advantage plan. What is my cost going to be? What's my budget? You and I talk about it all the time. Only you know your budget, and only you know your healthcare needs. So your neighbor's plan might be great for your neighbor, but not be good for you.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Stephen, you know, people, all they know about Medicare is they see all these big national commercials. And I got to tell you, and I just saw one today that's so BS. I mean, it's telling you got $6,000 a month. Well, first of all, you don't even know 2027 yet, do you?
No.
So how can they make those claims?
You know, I will say this, that I
Go
only
ahead,
hope
say it.
when someone sees those commercials, please realize that those extra benefits are not really the core benefits that you're most likely going to need. So don't get hung up on an extra over-the-counter card that maybe will give you an extra $50 a month, but not really help you because your doctors are no longer in that plan or your medications aren't covered. You know, you never look at that. Unfortunately, they'll get enrolled in a plan that will not best meet their healthcare needs. Might meet their over-the-counter needs, but will not meet their healthcare needs. And that's important to know. Unfortunately, it becomes, you get caught up in the moment, and then people realize I made a mistake, and then we have to fix that mistake. So that's why having these conversations back and forth, educational, is so important. You know, but we're here to help. That's what we do every day. We're here to help.
Stephen, you know, I don't think people realize that those national commercials they see, you're calling one company, you're going to get their rates. When people call you, you represent a lot of companies.
Correct.
And you're going to be able to show them different plans, right?
Yep. I'm a licensed independent insurance agent. I am currently licensed in 40 states now. So if someone should call me up and I'm in a state that I am not licensed in, it's very simple to get a license in that state. So, you know, when we look at someone's overall situation, we're going to review different carriers in their area that work best for them, be it Medicare supplemental carriers, be it Medicare Advantage, prescription drugs. It takes a lot of time to do all this analysis. And that's why, for me, we're going to look at carriers that best meet your needs. And, you know, reputable carriers, in my opinion, have to be reputable carriers. You know, making sure that we think this is going to work best for you. You know, it's a lot of time. It's a lot of time, it's a lot of effort, but it's great. It's a lot of good work. I mean, nothing more satisfaction when you help somebody and they call you up and they're like, thank God we had that conversation. Because as you and I talk about in our shows, you know, life events, acute events, getting a sickness, those things are never planned in life. They just happen. And having those plans in place. And I stress to everyone I talk to about any of this stuff, you know, my phrase is lock in your insurability now. While you're healthy, lock in your insurability. Because when we hang up this phone, something may change. And then you may call me and now you're not insurable anymore. Or maybe you're still insurable, but now you're rateable, meaning that we're going to rate you higher and you have to pay more. So that's how important it is. You know, at a base, we always say have some bottom, well, I'll call it essential level of coverage for maybe ancillary products that we can build upon. That's how important it is.
Stephen, I don't know if you can answer this question up, but we're getting a lot of people saying basically they're hearing the millions, the billions of dollars these insurance companies are making. They want to know why, if they're making so much money, do they cut out areas and rates are going up so much higher?
It's a great question. Unfortunately for me, I am not in a position to answer a question like that regarding, insurance carriers and profit and loss. We talked about it last show. 3 million, 3 million Medicare beneficiaries lost coverage, lost their Medicare Advantage plans last year in 25. Of those 3 million, there were other plans in their area to choose from, but maybe those plans were not as good as the other one they had. I don't know that. But that's why you always have to stay on top of this. And again, we talked about it last show also. 30,000 people lost their Medicare Advantage plans in their current area. And there was no additional Medicare Advantage plans to choose from. So they had to go back to original Medicare. And, maybe the situation, again, it varies every time, that they had to try to enroll in a Medigap plan and maybe they couldn't afford it. I don't know. I can't answer the question why the insurance carriers are pulling back as much as they are last year. And, it's still happening this year. It's already happened in these months. There's been a couple carriers that put us on notice that they are no longer offering these plans in this area or this state effective like June 1st, for example.
Wow.
This didn't just happen last year. It's still evolving as we head into June. There's been carriers that have pulled out of counties or zip codes or states still. The landscape is shifting. And you and I talked about it. It's moving more from it was HMO, PPO, and a lot of the plans that got canceled were PPOs, which gave you more flexibility. And now it's more of an HMO model. So again, that's one of the things I talk about with people turning 65. Are you going to travel? One of the first things I always ask somebody, do you plan on traveling? And if the answer is yes, I'm going to be like, well, listen, the Medicare Advantage plan might not be the best plan for you then.
Right.
With original Medicare, you can go see any doctor or hospital in the United States that accepts Medicare. Medicare Advantage, HMO, very restrictive. So we have to have those kind of conversations. And again, 6 months in advance. Let's be prepared. So when that day comes, you go on Medicare and you get your card and you're ready to rock and roll. You know what's going on. You're prepared. But it doesn't just stop there, Steve, as you know. It's a constant evolving, having conversations, reviewing open enrollment, constantly reviewing the situation. We do quarterly reviews. We contact everybody each quarter just to say hi. And if you have any questions, oh yeah, by the way, there's a new product out. Let me tell you about that. It's constantly evolving.
Stephen, tell people what kind of check they have to write when they come in and sign up with you.
0. They have to write a 0 check. So as a licensed independent insurance agent, I am compensated by the insurance carriers for the various products that someone should enroll in. So our services are 100% free. And so that's free education, free clarity. That is what we strive for. We want to be your trusted advisor for life, as well as I want you to be my client for life. So our services are completely free, and that's the best part about it. And that goes back to comparing various carriers, in that situation for that person. Let's look at the different carriers. I get paid by the carrier, but let's find out what works best for you. Okay. Not just one carrier, but works best for you. Some people do come to me, they want name recognition. That's fine. But my job is to explain to them that there may be something else out there that is not the name they're looking for, but similar, but maybe less expensive. So that's my job to always explain those things.
And I'm so glad we've got you for Florida, because Florida is, it's an older demographics here. And what's amazing, Stephen, is tell people, I don't think people understand, what if you miss enrollment dates?
Lifelong penalties. Part B, if you miss your initial election period, enrollment period, lifelong penalties, or maybe you're not given the right advice regarding whether or not you have credible coverage or not, and then you miss enrolling in Part B or Part D properly, those are lifelong penalties, and those penalties, they just compound every year. And especially I'll just touch upon Part D. During initial election period, I'll have families, I don't take any medications, and that's great. Unfortunately, with Medicare, they require you to enroll in a Part D plan and have credible coverage. That's just the way it is. And so people are not happy about it, but they do it. Some other people don't do it, and then they want to do it later, and they realize there's a penalty. Even though you're not taking medications right now as you turn 65, there's a high probability that you will be taking a medication later in life. And if that was me, I'd want to make sure I'm prepared and I have a plan in place to help pay for those medications. Because as we all knew, these new blood thinners like Eliquis and other things are $500-$600 a month. Yes. And so and that the landscaping is changing on how we're going to, how drugs are going to be priced. It's constantly changing, constantly evolving. So my conversation that I've had with the 6 or 7 families this morning and this afternoon, each one is different. Yes. And each one is different. And the biggest question we always ask anybody's before we build rapport and we get started, hey, what would you like to accomplish today? I need to understand what your goal is, what you want to accomplish, so that I can make sure that happens for you. And that's the most important question we have to ask everybody from the very start. What would you like to accomplish today? So it goes well.
But Steve, what? With people not knowing about Medicare, how do they know what questions to ask?
Well, we're running we have our Medicare 101 webinar right now that we're running, and getting a lot of great traction with that. Families signing up, learning it. I'm actually going to re-record it this weekend because I've added a lot of volume to it. As I mentioned previously, we send everybody a copy of this book, the Medicare Breakdown 101. I've got a lot of great feedback. People read the book and, they're like, wow, that really helped me a lot. Plus Judith puts a great folder together in there. We send the book with the folder, with the very professional materials that we put together about all educational pieces in there. And of course, she always puts in her little goodie bag for people, our little senior survival kit that she calls it. She puts together, includes in the package. So it's, and where do you start? You start with having a conversation with me, so I can begin explaining to you the difference between original Medicare and Medicare Advantage, and identifying what your needs are and what I think, and make a formal recommendation to you, what I think will be best for you and your family at this point. And that may change, but let's have that now.
We've got about 30 seconds left. Tell people how they can reach you, Stephen.
Sure. Well, they can go on our website, which is www.fromis.com. They can always call me direct at 908-268-2356. On the website is also a contact form. So this way they can contact me directly and we will be in touch.
Stephen, starting next month, we'll be doing 3 shows a month. Stephen, bro, I can't wait to see what kind of plan you're going to have for me. And I am so glad that we have you. Stephen Fromm. Folks, I'm telling you, if you know someone who's getting ready, or someone who's already on Medicare,
true,
that needs a great, great agent, Stephen's your man. Thank you, Stephen. We'll see you next month.
Thank you. Have a good one.
And we're going to go to a break. We've got our functional medicine show coming up. We'll be right back.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Tune in next week and every week to hear more from our experts on personal injury, insurance, air condition repairs, estate planning, Medicare, and many other topics in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. See you next week.